My first business was called Tesh Tech. I knew I wanted to go into technology business since I was in high school. I made some good money, and then I was thinking, okay, now let me diversify. I set up a movie shop when I was in campus. It failed terribly.
You bought the shop for 600K?
600,000.
Okay.
In 6 months, we shut down the business.
Is it true you made your first million at 19?
Yes, this guy was from World Vision. And he'd been sent to get banners for a project. There were enough banners that they cost 1.2 million shillings. There were a lot of roll-up banners. I just wing it, I believe. Like, things will be fine. And so far, to be fair, they have been. I think the way to generate wealth is to own equity in businesses. I've made over 15 angel investments. I back founders. I'd write a check.
Yeah.
So I'm always broke as a result. Like, founders are always reaching out to me and telling me about their great ideas. And I've got to a point where I'm always broke because I'm always writing checks to founders.
How do you decide the salaries that you guys are going to pay yourselves?
I'll disclose this number for the first time.
Yes. Disclose it on Financially Incorrect. This is another episode of Financially Incorrect. I am your host, Barak, and this is where we have a cheeky take on serious financial topics. My guest today is laughing and is distracting me as I'm trying to do this. As I'm trying to do my intro. As I told him, I struggle with it, but it's fine. Yeah. As usual, these conversations are proudly brought to you by FX Pesa, who are very soon going to be in Tanzania, and we're actually going to shoot a couple of episodes for in Tanzania. So any Tanzanian entrepreneurs, any Tanzanian people in the audience who want to tell us their money stories and we hear how things are going down there, please reach out to us via DM or email. We leave links in the description box for you to reach out, and we can come and cover more interesting stories from you guys. I've not done this in a few episodes, but I'll see if I can reference some comments we've gotten from our most recent episodes. I think the one that a lot of people have been talking to me about especially is Tony Ndungu's episode. Let me read a couple of comments from that episode. Hopefully people haven't said I'm condescending there. Anyway. Someone says my favorite financial conversations in order: Dr. Lemma, Pinky, John Allen, A-Star, and Tony. Interesting. Interesting order there. I love that Tony speaks in 2x speed. Super helpful for some of us. This is a comment he made. Wealthy relationships do not suffer incompatibility. It's only the poor ones. Then someone references Tony's 5 Ps. I thought that would be big. A man being a priest, a procreate, protection, provider, and prophet. Then someone says, I took notes. My past 14 years as an entrepreneur, oh my God. Money highs and broken lows and stupid mistakes and dates with hard money lender, the auctions, the prospect of success, the frustration of just falling short, hell and heaven do go interchanging spaces, waves. Anyway, interesting. I really enjoyed the conversation with Tony, and hopefully the conversation today can match up. So tough one. Anyway, my guest today is none other than Tesh Mbaabu, who is a self-proclaimed serial technology entrepreneur. Yeah, married at 25. 2 kids by 31. Welcome to Financially Incorrect.
Asante.
Yeah,
it's good to be here.
It's good to be here.
Yeah.
What's your favorite episode if you've watched Financially Incorrect before? Let me put you on the spot.
I've watched Tony's episode because he's my friend and he came up to my feed.
Yeah.
Did
he say stuff that,
it's very real?
Knowing him personally, did he say stuff that you didn't know about before?
Yes, he did. I mean, his story of earning to 50K at 20?
Yeah, when
I didn't know about that. He's been in the game for a while and we're in the same industry. But I didn't know about that journey, so it was very cool to listen.
Yeah.
Did
you give him a ring after and be like, I watched the episode, it was this?
Not
or
yet.
It's a discussion when you meet?
Yes, when we meet. We had coffee maybe 2 weeks ago. So we always hang out and exchange notes because the streets are tough. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. First, let me ask you why. I mean, why do you describe yourself as a serial technology entrepreneur?
Man, it's a good question. It's just what I am. So serial meaning I've done it many times over. So I've built businesses in the technology space. Anytime I try and do something outside technology, it doesn't work out. So I'm just sticking to my lane.
Yeah. What have you
So-
tried to do outside technology that hasn't worked out? If
Oh
you can give
man!
us an
So
example.
my first big failure was I set up, which is so counterintuitive. I set up a movie shop when I was in campus, and this is when streaming was becoming a thing. So this is 2000 and what 13, 14. It failed terribly. So I put in money. I put in a lot of my savings from another business, which was my first business was called Tesh Tech. I knew I wanted to go into technology business since I was in high school. So the first business I registered was Tesh Tech. And the idea was graphic design, web design, sort of an agency. We went into printing. I set up a print shop in the CBD. And then I made some good money. And then I was thinking, okay, now let me diversify. So this opportunity came to acquire a movie shop. And
How much did you buy the movie shop for? These were those DVD rental spaces, yeah.
Yeah. So you'd come and buy your series, and then
Copyrighted.
It was so fun, yeah. And we'd burn discs and that the whole shenanigan. So it's a funny story because I was in second year. I'd made money from the printing business, the agency, and then I call up a good friend of mine. Shout out to Ima, and I tell him, "Yo, there's this business opportunity." And this is right before we go back for the next semester. So our parents have deposited school fees into our accounts. So, and of course, he's my best friend at the time. So I know this. So I'm like, dude, this business will sort out the fees. Don't worry. I'm putting in my own cash.
Yes.
So let's do this. So we bought the shop and ripped up for 600K,
You bought the shop for 600K.
600,000.
Okay.
So 600K was, we did some math. It's in town, so there's goodwill for the store because it is a sort of high traffic area, Moy Avenue. This guy had clientele, so we thought it was a very good idea to buy the shop. And he told us that he was moving out of the country. So that's the reason he was selling the
shop.
business. It turned out not to be true.
He was moving out of the business.
He was moving out of the business. It's like this business is going down.
I mean, when you were paying 600K for it, what was the hope? I mean, what projections did you guys have, if any?
We had projections for we'd be netting 100 G's a month or something like that. I can't remember.
So it would
the
take you
exact
about
figures.
6 months to
Yes,
pay.
it was definitely under a year to pay back, and then now we'd be raking in cash. In 6 months, we shut down the business.
That's how bad it was doing.
Yeah, it was
no.
terrible. We lost money
Yeah.
every month from month one, and we tried push. We invested more in trying to market, print out flyers, do all this stuff. We kept losing money. So
Okay.
we were like, okay, just call it.
And your best friend had put in his school fees.
He had put in part of his
School fees. So how did he cover that?
So the good thing is we're generating cash from the other business.
I see.
So that's how we kept funding the business.
I see. Okay.
It ended up being a loss, and we had to recover and pay school fees from the business.
Okay. Before we really get into your money journey, let me ask you. So you got married at 25, right? It's been 6 years now. Would you say that being married and so early, quote unquote, has helped you make more money than you would have if you were single?
That's a good question. I think being married has helped me save money.
It's helped you keep money.
Keep money.
Yeah.
Keep money. So just going back to campus, right? I used to make a lot of money from the business every month. And a lot of the money would go into rave. Or lie. So
On the
I
streets.
just on the street, like I just had a really good time. Traveled a bit, always loved that. Um, but once I got married, then I still do rave, to be fair, but not nearly as much. And I'm more conscious about how I spend. Then now you have a wife, you have kids, so it's just like you become more responsible.
Yeah.
Like you have to be. I think there's some people who are single and can just be responsible by themselves. That's not me. So my wife at least helps
Like
me.
some guardrails to help. So
Yeah.
so it's helped you become wealthy or wealthier in the sense that you keep money.
Yeah, I keep more, invest more. I think about the future, for my kids and all that. When it's one man, one thing I am blessed with is I can figure out how to make money. I've done that for many, many years. So I don't wake up thinking about, and that's a privilege. Like, what am I going to eat next month, or how am I going to pay rent, right? But then I have to think beyond myself. So you start thinking about, school fees and the future of your kids, like where am I going to live? If it's just myself, I can have a 1-bedroom apartment somewhere, and it's not, it's nothing crazy. But that's how it's helped.
Okay. I mean, and I was actually going to ask you based on what you've just talked about right now. I mean, you haven't referenced the ability to make money in any way. I mean, like it hasn't hindered or increased your ability to make money. So do you feel like, I guess, like you've said, you have a gift or a talent or an ability to make money? Because I was going to ask that as well
Wow.
in tandem in relation to tech business,
Yeah.
right? Because there's being in tech,
Yeah.
and then there's now the business element, meaning the ability to make money. Which is a
True.
totally different scale
Yeah.
from tech in and of
From
itself, or
tech
any industry in and of itself. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, how I think about money is it's an output. So in my case, I have skills and know-how in technology, but you're right, like that's not enough. You need to think about how do I take this to market. And they like to say, like, second-time founders or third-time founders like myself, we focus on distribution because that's where the money comes from. Like, you need people willing to pay for whatever you're building, whatever your skill set is. So I think therein lies the gift. I wouldn't say my gift is making money. I make money, but not that much money to say that, hey, I'm gifted in making money. No, but I make enough money. I live well. So I'd say the gift is figuring out how to build something of value and get people to pay you for it. That I've done like since day one, since I started to start business.
Okay, maybe let's get into a bit of your background. Where you come from, your folks, your upbringing. What was that like? And from a money perspective, with a money lens, what was it like?
It was interesting. So I grew up in Ngong, which is very stable home. My folks, my dad is a lecturer, is a professor, and my mom has had many lives just like me. Like, she reinvents herself every decade. So when I was very young, she was a lawyer. Then she was like, okay, the world is shifting, and she's not about like the whole litigation and all that. So she went into alternative dispute resolution, which is like mediation. Let's find better ways instead of going to court. And then she evolved into like the NGO world, training people about like peace. And peace could be in business. It could be how do you keep a happy home. So I think a lot of my inspiration is drawn from my mom. So since I was young, she made me understand what entrepreneurship is. Like, there was a path like that. So my dad is very disciplined. He'd go to work every day.
9 to 5.
9 to 5 kind of thing. I'd always see him. He has classes. He's marking papers and all that kind of thing. My mom, on the other hand, would do very different things. Like she was running a business, she had employees, and then I'd see her, travel for conferences and all these things. So I think that's one of the biggest blessing I had, just that exposure to entrepreneurship really, really early. I remember going to her office in town on Koinange Street when I was like in class 6 and just sitting there and watching her deal with clients. So that was an interesting spark. Otherwise, outside that, it was like nice upper middle income home. So there wasn't stress. In fact, a lot of people ask me where the hunger came from because I should have been just
Right.
chill and comfortable. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay. What's your favorite financial memory with your nuclear family, with your mom and your dad?
Oh wow! This is probably something it's weird, but I remember my dad buying me a bike for 9,000 shillings, and I thought that was a lot of money. I think I was in like maybe that same age, class 6.
Thereabout, yeah.
It's an interesting financial memory because it made me appreciate the value of money. Like I wanted this thing so badly, and it took me weeks and weeks of trying to convince him.
Ask him.
Yeah, then eventually he's like, okay, let's go get it. As an adult now, I picture how, spending a lot of money on your kids, on your nuclear family is a big deal. If you decide you're going to throw a party for your child, then you start thinking budget, then you just realize, okay, this is what money can buy you. So I think that's why that's an interesting memory. I realized like having money is a good thing. Like you can go to a shop and walk out with this nice blue bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What do you wish your folks had taught you about money? I guess as you now ventured into being an adult. And it can be, I mean, looking retrospectively, like looking back, what do you think? What do you wish they had taught you about money?
yeah, what I wish is my parents were very, so there's a traditional African parent who encourages you to study hard, get a job, get a good paying job, be stable, take care of your family, right?
Yeah.
Then there's modern parents like mine, so they're not that traditional in the sense of they didn't chart a path for me. They didn't tell me like study hard so that you can get a good job. They told me figure out what you like doing, and work hard. Like they taught me values. And what I wish I learned, maybe because that's what I value, is that you need, like, to create wealth, you need to own equity in businesses or in a business. So instead of being neutral about it and just be like, do whatever you want,
Right.
like, I wish you well, I'd love to teach my kids that, you can generate an income and you can make money.
Those are two.
Those are two different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, how to make money.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
So was money a factor? I mean, because it sounds like you were relatively conscious about money. Was money a factor when you were deciding what you're going to study at uni?
definitely.
So what were the
Probably
options
the
on the
biggest
table? Yeah.
factor.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Do you know,
probably.
I've asked that question possibly easily,
Yeah.
maybe 50 times.
Yes.
And you're the first person who's outrightly admitted and be like, yeah, it was
Yeah.
in determining your career. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be healthy. I want to be wealthy. So I'm very conscious of. I have been for the longest time.
Yeah.
And so let me tell you what happened. It's so funny. I was in high school. I knew I wanted to be an architect. So I did art and design from 1 to actually all through to form 4, and I started business as well. Business
When
studies.
you're still in
high
business
school,
studies,
through to
okay,
form
yeah.
4.
Right.
Which is weird because I'd passed subjects like bio, but I still dropped. I wasn't interested. I knew I wanted to be where the money is at. The reason I started art is because I could draw and all that. So I thought the career that makes sense is an architect. Then I had this very rich family friend. He's actually one of the architects who designed the KICC, and he was like, so he was very wealthy.
Yes.
So, so I thought, okay, maybe I should study architecture so I can be wealthy as
like,
well.
yeah.
Because now you ask, okay, what does this uncle do? What does this guy do? And I noticed that the pattern. A lot of my parents' friends who were in business were the wealthy guys.
As opposed to
know,
the salaried ones.
As opposed to the guys who, I work in a bank, or I do, XYZ. They were okay. They were well off, very similar to us, but they were not the guys I admired. There was a significant difference. So Joe, that auntie, you look at the way she's dressed, you're like, hey, you can smell the money almost.
Yeah.
So, so I wanted to be an architect, and then I go home for midterm. I've told this story many times. In Form 2, 2008. And then my cousin, who just finished high school, introduces me to Facebook. She's called Diana Karemi. So Dee introduces me to Facebook, helps me set up an email address. She tells me this is some hot stuff. And I get into Facebook, and we're doing all these things, poking each other, sending friend requests. Then I went into that rabbit hole, like, okay, who built this thing? Like, how does this work? I got interested in, okay, it's technology, but what's the thing behind it? So that's when I learned about Zuckerberg. I learned about these dropouts. I learned about Bill Gates. Then I was looking, okay, apparently Bill Gates is the richest man in the world. What does he do? He builds software, Microsoft. So I went back to school knowing, like, hey, by the way, what do you do to build this stuff? So that's how I decided I was going to study software engineering.
Right.
So I just became obsessed with that, focused. Every time I went home, holiday, the next big ask for my folks was I want a laptop so I can start figuring this stuff out. And the rest is
history from there. Okay.
Tech and business.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So is it true you made your first million at 19?
Yes.
Yes.
It is
okay.
True.
So how, it is true for starters. So tell me, how did you end up building, I guess, the business and selling the solution that allowed you to make $1 million at 19?
Yeah. So this is funny because I cleared high school I just turned 18. And then the first thing I did is I enrolled for ICDL. So I wanted to, the usual stuff, office and all that stuff. And then I was self-teaching graphic design. So I got that laptop. I was just self-teaching. While I was doing this this is a different story, but I was hawking sandals at church.
Okay.
Because I just wanted to make money. So I was like, okay, the pocket money I'm getting is not enough. And then there's an auntie of mine who used to make nice Maasai sandals. So I started hawking sandals. I started making money. That was my first business, which didn't do so well, but it gave me like pocket money.
So you'd buy the sandals from your auntie and then sell them?
Yes. Okay. So I'd get them on consignment.
Oh, right.
Yeah, whatever I don't sell, I bring it back. So it taught me some principles, right? And then it taught me one of the best skills you can learn, which is just selling, like hardcore selling. You walk up to somebody and
you're
like,
trying to get them to buy something.
Yeah. Then fast forward, so I start doing graphic and web design because I've self-taught. Now I start hawking those services. I'm like, okay, now I go to all those uncles and aunties or family friends who are running businesses, and I'm telling them I can design your logo, I can design your website. That was a thing, then. And I started with as basic as like 20K, 30K website, 80K website. I kept growing, and then I realized I made it professional. I registered my company as soon as I turned 18. I was getting into first year. And then some of the people I was designing stuff for, including the church I used to go to.
Where you're hawking the sandals?
Yes, where I was hawking sandals. Now I start telling them, guys, I can redesign the website. I can help you with the Sunday bulletins, all that kind of stuff. And then somebody asked me to print. So like, you've done a good design, but I need this printed. So I went to River Road. Again, it's just like, where do I get this done? I was told, go to town. There's a place called River Road. You'll find people who do large-scale printing. And then, you get it done over there. So when I went there, down there, I just saw the amount of activity and everything, but it got me into the world of printing. So post, which is like post design. And I remember when we opened the first shop, I was in first year, so I opened that shop in my avenue that I talked about. This random gentleman walks in. He's wearing, I remember, he was wearing a cap, and he was wearing a backpack, and he looked like he's from safari or something wild like that. And he's like, I'm looking for a designer who can design something and print something for me. I was like, what do you need? He told me a roll-up banner. Then I asked, okay, cool. Then I told him, yeah, that's what I do. And the good thing with Moi Avenue positioning is like River Road is a 5-minute walk, but you know how it is when you cross Tomboya Street, it's the ghetto.
Yes, you're in another
Like
world.
it's in another world.
altogether.
So anyone on this side doesn't
Then I
want
want to go down that.
yeah, if you're on this side, on this side. So you'll find the people who can afford, people who are running SMEs and stuff, they can walk on this side, but they don't want to go to River Road, even if they know. But the good thing is majority of them don't even know that that's where the real production happens. It's like downtown or industrial area, right? Like, so you sell the, we like call it ignorance? Yes. There's money to be made in ignorance. So so you print something here, like the banner. I'll print it down there for 5K. I'll sell it to this guy at 20K. So I remember the contract. I realized this guy was from World Vision, the NGO. And he'd been sent to get banners for a project. I don't know, remember where the project was happening. But there were enough banners that they cost 1.2 million shillings. There were a lot of roll-up banners.
That's
They were charging like 20K each.
Yeah.
And we were printing them for like 5K.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you guys made.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just, yeah. So that's how I made the first million.
Okay.
Yeah.
And throughout this period, because you've talked about pocket money, you've talked about hawking, the sandals, and making money in different ways up until this point.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your money at this early stage? I mean, that's probably up to what, 21, 22, be first year, before second year. What do you do with your money then?
I
Are you saving it? Are you blowing all of it? Are you?
I'll be lying to say I was saving.
Yeah.
My mom she kept asking me about this saving thing. But I mean, I've always struggled with saving. So I was just making money and thinking about how to invest it. Sometimes I invest, but majority of it I was just having a good time.
So at that point in time, when you're saying invest, you mean another business or?
So like in the
movie-
fashion business,
right.
my printing business, I would expand it. I had more people, bought more machinery to increase my margins. I set up my house. So I moved out of home when I was moving to campus. So now I started paying my own rent. I told my folks I'm good. I got a car. So I was like a small adult.
That was at 19 there.
At 19,
right?
I got a small place in Kile at the time.
How much? Do you remember how much it was?
Yeah, the rent is an SQ. I was paying 20K. It was an SQ.
Okay. How much did you buy the first car for?
So the first car, actually, I made a good deal with my folks because they had a car that they weren't really using. So it was only pole kind of thing. So it was something like 400K.
Yeah.
It was a Toyota Fielder. Yeah.
Okay. So at this point in time, you're saying you're now getting into second year.
Yeah.
You're running a full-fledged business, a printing business.
Yeah.
Making money from it, enough money to pay your rent, enough money to live. You're paying for your car slowly.
Yeah.
All of those things are happening.
I'm traveling. I'm going to Diani.
You're you're having a good time.
Yeah.
So would you know? I mean, if I was to ask you, of course, maybe a little difficult to figure out, but what your monthly income was at that time, if you'd be able to guess.
Yeah, I can guess. So, because it's business, it would fluctuate. There are months that you get that a million job, and there are months where you'd struggle to pay rent. But I'd say on average, I was probably making like 200K a month.
Okay. And so you weren't paying yourself a salary. It was whatever comes in.
Yes.
We pay the expenses and then take.
Exactly.
Okay.
I had a nice counter book. So on the front side, I would write all the the business that's coming in. And when I'm in school, I was in school all this time. So I'd
Yes.
miss a lot of classes. I'd come to the shop sometimes in the evening, and I had an attendant. So I had 2 guys. So they would write every single job we print. Some jobs as little as 30 bob. Others were print jobs worth like 70K in a day, and then on the backside, we had expenses. So, so at the end of the month, it was fine. At the end of the month, I just like open an Excel,
And-
count everything on this side, count everything on
And
the
then
other
minus.
side, minus whatever is left. I decide
That's
what to
yours.
do.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And where's the money? I mean, if I was to, I guess, delve into the printing business a little bit, where's the money in the printing business?
Where's the money?
Yeah.
I think I'd say just in ignorance and value addition. Ignorance because a lot of people who want these jobs done require and don't know where to get it done for the best price, which in many cases is Kirinyaga River Road. So people will typically pay 10, 20, even 30 shillings for a business card that's produced for 2 shillings. So there's a lot of money to be made there, especially if you can back to selling. So I think the game in printing is a very saturated business. But the game there is how do you acquire customers? How do you create an outfit that big brands can trust? FX is going to print stuff. Where they're going to print from? They need somebody who's, decent. All these signages, all that kind of stuff is done by branding guys. So that's where the money.
Okay.
That's where
And
the
what
money
do you
is at.
think worked for your particular printing store at the time?
So I think one thing, in hindsight, I did really well is positioning, and I came to realize this much later that I'm good at branding and like sort of storytelling. So the way I set up my shop, it looked really decent. Like it was in a stall with fashion businesses, those boutiques and all that. But you could see this shop is that. I guess that's why that guy from the NGO
walked in and was like,
up
"This is
and
the
he was like,
place."
I'm comfortable
In
giving $1 million to these guys, So that positioning, and then very importantly was just selling and networking. So being resourceful,
Yeah.
taking advantage of your network. In my case, so we lived in Ngong and used to go to a church called Karen Community Church. So that was interesting.
The one
also.
across
There's
near
another
the
church.
I know
KCB.
yes, the KCB turning. Yes.
Yeah, so what was interesting about that church, it's right in the middle of, Ngong and Karen, sort of. So there's a lot of affluent people who'd go to that church. By affluent, I mean wealthy. So again, I'd observe and I'm thinking, these guys are driving a V8, these guys are driving Benzes. Like, what do these guys do? So I was shameless. So, and I think that's like one of the best skills you can have. Just be shameless.
Yes.
You can't shame the shameless.
Yes.
Just walk up to somebody and be like, especially when you're young, take advantage of that. The elder people want to help young people who are driven. Because I hear them complaining a lot, you guys, your generation, you're spoiled. So you can imagine you're in this church. People know your parents, and they know your parents are okay. They're well off. But you're walking up to them and asking them, hey, Dad told me you run an insurance brokerage, and I looked at your website. It doesn't look that good. Shameless.
Yes.
Yeah. Can I redesign it for you? And then it'd be like, okay, this kid is interesting. It'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, come to my office next week. We talk. So you go and you sell them the website. You upsell them on printing. And they'll do it because one, they just think it's cool to see somebody the age of their son or daughter hustling like that without having to. You don't need to. You're just doing it. And then they also have a relationship with your folks. So
It helps as well.
it helps as well.
Yeah.
So I know many people might be thinking, okay, I'm not privileged. But I feel like everybody has a different form of leverage that you should use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what's the next big money thing that happens in your life after that? I guess through that period, yeah.
Yeah, so after that, now we've started coding, started programming, because we're studying computer science.
Yes.
And now my co-founder and I, in second year, we set up a business called Mesozi, which is a software business. It started out as a dev house. A dev house is you come, you tell us what software you want to build. Everybody has an app idea.
Yes.
Nowadays, too many people have app ideas. Then there's a few people with app ideas, so they would look for dev guys, again, leverage skill, who can build this for me. And then, I know this guy studying IT, I know they do some programming here and there. So that's how I started getting ideas on tech products that we could build. And we started consulting. So we upgraded from building websites to web applications and software. And then the size of the check increased. So I was building a website for, 80K. Now I can charge you 400K or 800K to build a web app. So that business really, really took off. And we pretty much, we worked on it. Anytime we're not doing schoolwork, we're working on that business or raving. So
Okay. and at this time, you're keeping the print shop is still going.
Yeah, it's still going.
Right. Okay.
So it kept going till fourth year.
Till fourth year. Okay.
Yeah, and I think, it's just important at certain points of your life to level up. It's like, okay, this is a nice business. It's making cash. But it's easy to be stuck and comfortable because of that 100K, 200K. If you think about how much time you're spending, at that point, I'd rather be spending time doing other gigs that are making me, 800K a gig, for example.
Okay.
So...
And at this point, even when you're venturing into the second business, was money the driving factor? Was it still money that you were after, or was it?
Yes. So my vision, you remember now, is coming to life. I'm like, okay, now I'm building tech.
Right,
the other stuff was just a means to
getting there. Okay.
So now I'm building tech. I understand how to build software. So the next thing was, how do we build software that can scale?
Okay.
So stop being a dev house, boutique company, to can I build a Facebook? So that's where our mind was at. And we built 2 failed products. The products that failed. Between that second, when we started the company and 2016, like 1 year after graduation, we had already started 2 startups that failed. And that's, you just can't cheat the process. That's what I've learned over time. The first one was... Both of them actually was just, we had great product ideas, but we didn't understand how real business works or how to take a product to market. And that's something I see a lot. People have great app ideas. They think the app is the solution. No, the app is just an enabler, it's just tech.
Yeah.
You need to be solving a real problem before you build the tech. So that's the biggest money lessons we learned, because we also burnt money trying to build those things. We invested so much time. Even hired our friends who were, like for the project, our friends who were in campus with, and we spent money from the consulting and from the printing business to build this stuff, and then it didn't work, So
okay, all right. What happens that if this is true again, that you end up cashing out an app, if it is true, an app solution for about 18 million? I don't know if it's true, first of all.
This is funny. I don't know where you get the numbers.
Yes.
They're not too inaccurate, but it is true. So in 2016, we started a business called Cloud9.
Okay.
So Cloud9 was an interesting business. It was at the intersection of... So our movie shop was called Cloud9.
Okay.
I don't know why we call it Cloud9. It's just a vibe. We call it Cloud9.
Yeah.
So we decided, okay, the movie shop failed. What else can we do that is a bit more scalable? The printing thing, we know how to print, so we started getting apparel and printing. So apparel was pretty popular, actually. We had a brand called High on Life, so we'd print swag and then sell it at events and all that. So this is hobby. We're doing the tech stuff, but this was just a lot of fun, and we're trying to make like income that is passive. That was the idea. It turned out to be much harder.
Yeah.
So with Cloud9, what happened is we finished campus, and then we decided, let's do a trip to the coast Just because to celebrate the fact that we've cleared campus. So we go to Diani, and then while there, so it's my co-founder, and then the guy started a movie shop with, and myself.
Yes.
Then we think, okay, man, like booking this trip, finding. Did we use a bus or we drove? I can't even remember. I think we drove. Finding stuff. What do we do when we're in Diani? So we Googled it. But then because our brain is wired towards like tech,
Yes.
we're like, how about if we had a platform where people could just find the best experiences to do when you travel? Go to Diani, I go to this platform,
And I see them.
and I see all these experiences I can book. That is what is Airbnb experiences today.
Yes.
So that's the idea that Cloud9 evolved to be, end up being Cloud9 experiences. We listed 600 experiences in East Africa. We had just started going to South Africa when we were acquired. So yes, we did end up selling the business to a company called Hotel Online, which is the largest hotel aggregator on the continent. What that means is they've listed them, I think thousands of hotels across the continent. And the reason they bought Cloud9 was they wanted to upsell experiences. Anytime you book a hotel, they give you recommendations of what to do around that place. So we ended up selling the business.
Okay. How long did it take from when you started it to when you sold it?
So we started 2016, and the process, man, this was hard because it was bootstrapped. Like, we're getting money from our consulting gig and investing into marketing and all these things. We ended up selling it in towards the end of 2019.
So about 3 years thereabout.
Yes.
Okay.
About 3 years, yes.
What was your living situation financially around that period? Because now you said you've essentially closed the printing shop.
Yeah. And this is literally hand to mouth.
During that period.
Yeah, during that period. And man, growth is painful. Growth is painful because I'm sure you had the analogy of how it's the eagle that it gets to a certain age and loses all the feathers. They go and hit their beak until it cracks. I think that was that phase for me. And funny thing, I just went through that phase again many years later, last year. When you have all these ambitions and you realize, yes, I can choose to be comfortable, keep doing what I'm doing, or I confront the brutal facts of what I'm trying to achieve and level up. So that period was hard because I was comfortable, but now I'm moving into doing gigs, consulting gigs, and I'm putting all the money back into this business, into Cloud9, into the products we tried to launch that failed. So it was just feeling like a thankless job for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's through to even starting the last company, Marketforce, in 2018. It started as an idea. Then 2019 is when we had a product and we took it to market. And then now the dream of building a real tech business, Silicon Valley type. So all this time I'm studying the Zuckerbergs and Airbnbs and all these companies. So that's when I decided, okay, now what we need to do to scale is raise money, raise external capital. Because the money I'm making from consult is just not enough to pay engineers and do enough marketing to grow a substantial business. So we start the fundraising journey. In fact, for Cloud9, before exiting, we had tried to raise money unsuccessfully.
For Cloud9.
For Cloud9. Because we're like, okay, this is it's a tech business, can scale. I mean, we all know Airbnb experience, and Airbnb is a massive company. So we knew this could scale across the continent. We went to Tanzania, Uganda, listing all those experiences using our own resources. So this was all bootstrapped. So in this is post Cloud9, we've sold it. Actually, the seeds are being born for Marketforce at that time. And then we're trying to raise venture capital. And then the first person who committed to invest, the first stranger, was in early 2020, right before COVID. But that was the breakthrough. Because finally, it was just not us putting our own capital into this thing.
Yeah.
We have other people who've decided to put money into it.
Okay. Before we continue, I'd like to give a big shout out to one of our sponsors, and that is Loop. And Loop is a lifestyle. Loop is an app and a tool that allows you to not only budget, keep track of your finances, you can pay bills, and all of this is in just one app. There are many, many other features you can do, up to including taking loans, overdrafts. I mean, check out the link in the description box about the different features Loop has for you and can offer you, and you'll be able to enjoy their benefits. If you want to pay your Wi-Fi, electricity bills, you want to deposit money into your Sacco, Loop has you completely covered. Click the link in the description box below, the ones that will have the Loop tag and the Loop logo on them, and you can download Loop from Play Store or your App Store. And why wait? Just Loop it. So what do you do with it? I guess before we get into like Marketforce and down that road, what do you do with the money from Cloud9? What do you guys do with it? What do as a group, and then what do you do with it?
Yeah, so
with your portion.
To be honest, how an acquisition works is it could be cash or stock. You get shares in the company.
Yeah.
So it was very little cash, and most of the exit was stock. So we were getting shares in this other company. It's called a share swap.
Yeah.
But the little money we got from that, we just put it back into the business. We invested in our next venture.
I see you're not allowed to tell us what this little money was. Anyway, it's fine. Okay.
But to be fair, it's not very far from what you've said.
What I heard. Okay.
Yeah, it's not too far. But that's not the number. But it's,
so you took so you took that money and you took your portion of the money and invested it into Marketforce, all of it.
So two of us did. One of our three guys, the other guy set up a different company. He did the same. He's put all the money into
this other company
he's running now.
Okay. Yeah. You don't take anything for yourself. You don't do anything for yourself. I mean, at that time, I know you talked about living hand to mouth. What was the worst financial position you had? You were in during this hand to mouth period?
Good question. I think I remember times that we couldn't even afford rent, and we had to negotiate with the landlord. And the idea was, we're working on this project. There was always a project coming. There were businesses. There's always this thing that's going to happen. So the worst position at that time, there weren't stories of, I've had crazy stories of auctioneers and all that stuff. There was nothing crazy like that. But all I remember was I had friends who were in campus with, who were working for Deloitte and Microsoft and all these guys, and they're earning 500,000 shillings a month. And us guys, you can't afford rent, because you're working on this dream. And at that time, you're looking like a fool. Look like get a good job like your friends,
Right.
So yeah,
that was it. Okay, so Marketforce, right? Because that stuff becomes the next step in the journey.
Yeah.
So you realize, I guess, external revenue is where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Who's the first person who commits, and what's the process of trying to raise money? And in this period, where are you living? What's your financial? Have you saved anything by this point? Or you're still just operating?
Oh man, savings was a rumor.
Yeah.
Like everything we had we'd put in to the business. If anything, we had like small debts here and there. We'd borrowed money from even friends and family just to keep the business alive. The good thing we did since day one is because we understood the structure for having angel investors or investors coming into business, we always gave shares. So my parents own shares, my friends own shares in the business, even today. So always had that knack for, let's build this venture together. It takes a village. And I give them very good examples of businesses that have blown up. And this 1 million shillings could turn into 100 million shillings one day. Just believe, So that's what we've always done, and I still believe that day will come because these people have been so patient with me. But that's how we survived the worst times. It was just people. They sorted us out. I was living. At some point we got a house in Langata, a 3-bedroom house. I was living with my co-founder. And there's nothing else to do. We just code the whole night, sometimes party at night. and repeat and eat ramen noodles, like typical Silicon Valley story. Like we're just eating off those vibes,
Right.
but we're going to build a big business.
Right.
And to a large extent, that's still the ambition we have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just want to actually show that we can, young kids from my co-founder comes from the village, like from Korea. We met in campus. I grew up in Ngong, average kid, but just, an average kid can build something Pan-African, global, and impact many, many lives. That's still what we're doing today.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I want to find out, because you get married at 25.
Yes.
So by the time you're getting married,
Yeah.
where are you on this this financial journey?
So 2025
It must be,
is 2018. So that's
Yeah.
it's 2018 to 2019.
So it must be
that's right before
Cloud9.
selling Cloud9, but
Yeah.
we're running Cloud9. I remember my girlfriend then, fiance, would come to us to the events, and because she's really pretty, should like, a lot of guys would just buy our stuff. So I told you, leverage. The guys,
Right.
So she was with us throughout this
Yeah.
whole thing, building the experiences thing through to the exit. So she's also an entrepreneur, but she's been like ride or die through.
Was money a factor?
My
Yeah,
toughest
was
time,
money a
actually.
factor when you're getting married? Because, because you've talked about hand to mouth, you've talked about putting
that's
everything into it.
Yeah. So we sold. So our parents obviously also like really supported, but we're making enough money. So you'd get a project. So I'll give you an example. There's a project we got in 2018. A big one by one of the large MFIs to build them some software. They paid us 4 million shillings. So this is money that, okay, I can pay 6 months rent once, like
And
I
then-
can pay like 2 months of backlog and pay, another 4 months rent as I hustle the next gig, and then you're hard coding at it, and it's enough to fuel a car and do all these things. So that's what I'm saying. We weren't really in the trenches, but the trenches is just like you have a much greater ambition than where you're at. And then when you look at your peers, you feel like you're falling behind. So that's been the situation for the longest time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I guess we've gotten context of how you then make the decision to get married.
Yeah.
So at no point did you, even if you didn't, it was a conversation that you had with your wife or your partner per se. At no point did you feel like, okay, financially this can be tricky.
Yeah,
Getting
and-
married right now can be tricky.
No, financial consideration wasn't the biggest thing, because first, she's an entrepreneur like me, and then also I just wing it. I believe like things will be fine.
Yeah.
And so far, to be fair, they have been. And this is something like that is, I think there are two kinds of people in the world. There's the people who will put everything, they'll just risk it all out to live that dream. And then there's people who are conservative and you'll play by the rules. And I really respect both sets of people. Elon Musk, for example, the guy sold a business and put everything back and went to sleeping on a couch.
Yes.
Like it takes insanity to do that. So I think over time you just appreciate yourself, and I've come to appreciate that's the kind of person I am. I live for a grander future, and many people will tell you about, save, which is important. I'm not a big fan of saving. I'm more of a fan of investing. Like if I get $1 million now, I won't choose to put it in like an MMF, for example, which will yield me 10 or whatever percent a year. I look for another business that's interesting. I think the way to generate wealth is to own equity in businesses. So I'll look for a business that instead of generating me 10%, it can either go to 0 or it can generate me 10x or 100x over the next couple of years. And so I make those kinds of
Decisions.
financial decisions. to many people, they can't understand. Some people understand. But yeah, that's what it is. I think you asked another important question that I thought I should address today, because I get that question all the time, is how did you start fundraising? So I think it starts with really having a clear picture, vision of what you're trying to build, because people buy into the story, people buy into the vision. And there's so many businesses that shouldn't ever fundraise because it's a big obligation. The minute I take money from you, Barak, and I'm like, and this is a promise I've given many people.
Yeah.
Obviously because we've raised a lot of money, it's a huge, I'll call it burden. It's a huge responsibility, and it's not for everyone. But it's that conscious decision that for me to achieve what I want to achieve today, I need $1 million, and tomorrow I'll need 10 million. OpenAI raised $1 billion because they're trying to do something different. The kind of projects that we try to undertake is to build life-changing products, like big products that will generate a great financial return and have great impact. So the fundraising journey just starts with that choice that I need to sacrifice my freedom, because then you end up sort of like a slave, to bluntly put it, because these people can call you any day and ask, how is my investment doing?
Yeah.
It's like, but when you're doing your own thing, you're running your business, you're making money, like, don't call me. Like, why are you calling me?
Yeah.
Don't ask me about my business, right? So it starts with that decision. And then once you make that decision, then you put yourself in the right rooms where there are people who are looking for investments to make. And I like Tesh, people who are not looking for MMF or to save,
but are looking
they're
at
looking
more
for
other
ventures
businesses, right?
Yeah, that can make them good money. So
how much did you end up raising in total for Marketforce?
So we ended up raising $42 million.
$42 million.
Yes, there's a whole story
about
yeah, there's a whole story about how much money actually eventually came in.
Are you allowed to talk about that, or those are under lock and key contracts in terms of how much cash you actually received?
I mean, it's public information for those who care to read. Unfortunately, most people don't read.
Okay.
Yeah. But in total, we ended up taking in $16 million.
$16 million. So you
what we
raised
actually invested.
42, but actually got 16 million in cash.
Yeah.
Okay. I have an interesting philosophical question to ask. At least I think it's interesting. Yeah. What did it cost you to raise these $42 million? And by cost you, I mean in as many different facets of philosophical life as you can address.
Yes.
From relationships to everything. And the pursuit of this $42 million, what did it cost you?
Yeah. So I'd like to rephrase the question, because we were not in pursuit of $42 million. Like,
yes,
we weren't, like, I wasn't living to raise money.
Yeah.
We had a mission, which that mission largely remains true. We, like, the business we run today, Chapter, serves merchants, serves businesses. So we build technology that helps businesses grow and make more money.
Right.
Marketforce was by and large the same thing. It's just we're targeting a different kind of business. We're targeting mama mbogas and duka owners. And there's many challenges that we faced as a result of the choice of market. It was a very big market that many people were interested to buy into to solve the problem we're trying to solve for them. And that's how we ended up raising that money.
Okay.
However, it cost a lot. It cost a lot because, first of all, just like mental wellness, mental well-being. That's the toughest thing. Sometimes you ask yourself if you're a hoax because, you believe this thing so much, you have so much conviction. You wake up every day to build product, to take it to market, to hire people, to expand. And all this time, you're selling. You're selling to investors. You're selling to the team. You're selling to your family how this thing is going to change our lives, including your wife, right? And when things don't work out, then you can imagine how you feel. Like you sometimes you just sit down and you're thinking, am I a con man? You know, it's like
a charlatan at the end of the day.
it's terrible. Honestly, sometimes it's really dark.
Yeah.
Because of that, especially when things don't work out.
Yeah.
And then you take a lot of hit for it because there's many genuine people. There's people who are with you during the good times and will put money behind you during the good times when everything is on the up. But when shit hits the fan, yeah, that's when you know who is who.
Yeah.
And that came alive for me. That's why I told you, like, I had to go through another reinvention process.
Okay.
Last year.
Okay.
Between end of 2022 and 2023, when I realized this thing is not going to work, and you have to face all these people who you are telling this grand vision, and
that
you're
this
like,
thing's going to change people's
yeah,
lives.
and you tell them this thing is going to work.
Yeah.
I believe this thing is going to work. Obviously, there's no assurances. There's no, anytime you're raising venture capital, you and they know that this is not debt. It's not that if the business fails now, I need to pay you the money you gave me. That's the difference between that and going to a bank for a loan. But at the end of the day, it's painful. You've lost money, you know. So, yeah.
Okay. For the people who, I guess, as you've put it, may not read about or haven't read about it, what's the difference between the 16 and the 42? Why 16? Why were you not able to get the other, what would it be? 26 in cash. Yeah.
So first of all, 20 million was debt.
Okay.
And it was debt that we could access to trade with. It's like working capital.
Yeah.
So for as long as we operated, we could keep tapping into that cash, and we didn't even tap into a quarter of it. So because our business hadn't gone, like the goal was raise this money and scale out much more. But you go to a point where, like, okay, we shouldn't take in more money because we're not seeing how this money is going to be paid back.
Okay.
So there was a big part of it being just our decision not to call for some of the money. But the other half part is the investors who signed, committed, and it wasn't committed that this money will be tranched upon certain milestones or anything, but they just wanted to be in on the transaction. They wanted to be in on the deal. It was a hot deal, and they didn't have the cash. And I didn't know that they didn't have the cash. So they signed and everything. I think the idea was, yes, we're in on this hot deal, and then they go and get the money, raise the money. So they tell you, just give me 3 months, I'm going to fund. So $8 million was that kind of money. Yeah.
That never truly really came to be.
That didn't come to be, and we waited for it for a long time, and we made decisions based on that money. Very naive of us.
Yeah.
You know. But now we know better. Like, cash is king, cash in the bank.
Yeah, is what
not
you have.
stories.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
When you start raising money, when you guys start making money and you start, you start getting the business dailies and the newspapers and everything, how do you, one, how does that make you feel? And then two, how do you decide the salaries that you guys are going to pay yourselves? Of course, there's the valuations, there's the salaries for the people who you're hiring, which I'm sure would be industry standard to some degree. How do you guys decide how much of the money you're getting you're going to pay yourselves?
Yeah, good question. So how we think about, at least we've been very principled about this. And one is we focus on hiring really good talent, like really, really good talent. But one of the things we've always said is we will pay ourselves at par with the highest person we're paying.
Okay.
In the business, because we created the business, and to be very fair, at the highest, I'll disclose this number for the first time.
Yes. Ever. Disclose it on Financially Incorrect.
Because we're talking about finances, right?
Yeah.
The highest amount of money we ever paid any person to work in our business was $7,000 a month. Even at our peak, when we had millions of dollars in the
That's
bank.
the highest you paid someone.
Yeah, because for us, it's always been about like the equity again. You don't get rich by having a salary. Even if you give me $20,000 salary today or 50,000, like I'm just draining money from the business account, and if the business is not generating money, then it will end. It will not end nicely.
Yeah.
So our concept has always been be very frugal. With that investment, we scaled our venture a lot. Like we were across 5 markets. We had 600 employees. Like our venture is very big, but we were very frugal at the same time in terms of how we just operated.
Yeah.
So I guess that's
That
it.
was
That's
it.
how we
you
made the
decided.
decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever met with a person or met with an opinion or philosophy of people who would think that, you're driving a really nice car, you're living in a nice place, you raised all of this money to get rich.
Yeah.
And essentially now the con man.
Many guys.
What's your
Many
response?
people.
What's your response to
Man, like I don't like to respond to this, because these are people who don't understand how this game works or how this thing works. When you're a founder, like, I mean, have you heard of the 3Fs rule?
No, maybe I have in one way or
Yeah.
another, but not entitled
Yes.
CF rules. Yeah.
So the 3Fs rule states that if you don't finance me, if you don't feed me, and I won't say
And the
third
last
F,
one.
like I have no business
Yeah.
responding to you,
Yeah.
because you just don't understand.
Yeah.
These guys are reputable investors who've given you the money. You have governance, you have a board. None of them, I don't have any suit or anything saying this guy is misappropriated. I've seen companies that have such suits, right? Like misappropriated funds. But like anyone who talks can't substantiate what they're saying. Are probably looking for clout. What I can say also is, look, we made terrible financial decisions while building. Like,
Are you able to disclose some of them?
yeah. So I can disclose. I already disclosed one of the biggest ones was we invested in scaling, and a lot of the money hadn't hit the account.
Yes.
And that caused a lot of strain.
And $8
for
million
the
is
team.
a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Like, that's months and months, not years of runway, right? So it got to a point where even we were like getting late to pay our staff. Sometimes we didn't pay our staff at all, that kind of thing. But it's not because money was being misappropriated. It's because we made the terrible mistake of spending money we didn't have. I think if there's one thing I can say, that whether you're running a business or whatever you're doing, just don't spend money you don't have.
Yeah.
That's
not in your pocket. Yeah.
Promises, people will promise you anything. They'll tell you like you're the best. I want to work with you. I'll pay you in 2 months. But it's okay. When the minute you do that job, just be comfortable with the idea that you might never receive that money. That's how it works. You know? So that was the biggest lesson.
Okay. So and okay, now on your personal level, so now when you're earning your salary, whatever amount it was during those periods, what are you doing with your cash now? And is your wife as on board with your investment strategy, or is she more
She'd
reserved?
probably kill me, but we have very different investment philosophies.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, like she's more conservative. She runs a business as well, but slow growth and all that. I've made over 15 angel investments, so like writing checks to startups, and I understand like how hard it is to build a business. So I know majority of them will fail, but a couple of them will be home runs and will return the entire money. So as long as I invest wisely, that's my goal. I have like multiple savings accounts that don't have money because when you tell me about this cool idea and analyze it, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I back founders. I'll write you a check.
Yeah.
So I'm always broke as a result. Like founders are always reaching out to me and telling me about their great ideas. And I've got to a point I've gotten like so broke because of I'm always broke because I'm always writing checks to founders.
Yeah.
So that's where my money lies. Other founders. Yeah, and the thing is, I always remember this thing that my dad has told me over the years that's kept me very humble is you can only eat one plate of food, you can only sleep in one bed in one house at a time. So I drive one car, I live in a rented apartment. And so all the like, what do you expect of, like, there's nothing out of the ordinary I would do as a person earning 300 or 400,000 shillings a month, So just to talk about like the money in your bank account, especially in your business bank account, really shouldn't define you, whether you have it or you don't. Like, just live be you, live the life you want to live, So it's never, the money has never ever gotten to my head. I travel a lot, actually. Like, I invest in experiences because I go out there and see the stuff guys are doing, and I get inspired. And all that information helps me make decisions on who I invest in, not what I invest in.
Okay, fair enough. As we sort of wrap up on Marketforce, when did you know, you and not the company, you, when did you know that it wasn't going to quite work out the way you had envisioned?
I knew in April 2023.
April 2023.
Yeah, April last year. I was in an Airbnb in Kampala. So I'd come from meeting the team and just hearing their challenges and their wins and everything. And I went home and I was just trying to figure like this thing out. At that point, we had shut down 2 out of 5 markets. And I was trying to figure, okay, will this survive? So that's there. I went and looked at the operations and everything. I said, okay, this thing is a decent business, but at the core of it, like, we have fundamental issues. We're not making money. I'm not seeing the path to us making money. We've brainstormed everything. I'm just not seeing it. So it's like, are we going? So the decision from there was, am I going to go and continue convincing people about this dream and raising more money to pour into it, or I call it? And that's when I called my co-founder and I told him, bro, I think this is not it. I know it's painful. Like, so many people's dreams are tied to this. A lot of people's money are tied to this, but it's not it. That was the hardest decision I've had to make in my life
so far.
so far.
Okay. I mean, what was and I know you've talked about a couple of financial mistakes you made that probably didn't help the business, but fundamentally, like you've said, what was the problem? Why was it not going to work?
Yeah. So I think there are 2 major problems. One is we're not a painkiller for our customers. The question I ask myself is, we serve dukas, we deliver inventory that they sell every day. If I go out of business tomorrow, will this duka stop working? Will it die? Will they suffer? And the answers to those questions were no. So I realized, okay, we could be making their lives a bit more convenient, but there was just too many options for them. So it was a race to the bottom. Like, anyone with the best price is who they order from. There was zero loyalty from our customer. So very low stickiness. So the value proposition that we had in mind when we started was that we'd become these people's darling. Like, we'd have everything they need. We'd get them access to financing. But it ended up being a red ocean. Like, every other person in our game was doing the same thing. So we weren't special. And I like one thing that Paul Graham says. Paul Graham is the founder of Y Combinator, one of the founders of PayPal. And he says that businesses fail because they fail to escape competition. Man, that thing really hits hard, because that's the essence. For you to be a successful businesses, you just need customers who love what you do and are willing to pay for it over and over and over. If you don't have that, you don't have a business. Yeah. So that's fundamentally why it failed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your mental health break like, or this period that you if you take any time off, what's that period like for you?
So I've fallen into a cadence that now works really well for me, which is 3 times a year I take a week off. So I did it April, I'm going to do it again in September, and then I'm going to do it in December. And that period is when I like totally switch off, like reset. So that has helped a lot, but it only started last year. But I'm seeing the fruits even this year. Like there's a point I was almost burning out. And they say when you start a business, you and burnout
are racing.
Are racing. Yes, and only one wins. So I just decided it's not worth it to be burnt out, because you become a terrible leader, terrible CEO. You don't make the right decisions.
Okay.
And then therapy. So therapy helped me. Like, shout out to my therapist. Like, she really helped me go through that tough period. And I think what I ultimately did that makes me very comfortable to sit here and talk is I forgave myself. That was the hardest thing. I felt that I was carrying like the weight of all these things on my shoulder for other people, which rightly so as a leader you should, but only to some extent. Like, you shouldn't carry it to the point where it brings you down and you crash. That's why a lot of people are not able to recover once they fail.
Was there any thoughts around being now another statistic of Kenyan startups that raised money but didn't quite make it out? Was there like a thought or anything around that?
Definitely, but the reason it is what it is. I don't really care, because again, the statistics, and when you start a startup, not just any business, you're looking for high growth, you're looking for very good returns for yourself and because it's a hard journey, and for the investors. But 90% of you fail. In fact, I would argue more like 99, because there are so many businesses who start and they don't even talk about it. Those are the ones that are known. So there's nothing abnormal about it. Like, everybody fails. Even Google has what they call their graveyard, because when they start a startup, like, most of them will fail, but when one hits,
they hit.
It hits. So.
What was the worst reaction you got, and what was the best reaction you got from the people who you had taken money from, when you are now telling them that, okay, we are closing shop?
Oh man, there's an investor who asked me how I'm doing. They put a lot of money, but they're like, okay, this must be tragic. You've been working on this for 5 years, since 2018. Just like, how are you feeling? How can I help? And I really love this investor, because I felt like that their level of self-awareness and awareness of the trade they were in was very, very high, which unfortunately most investors don't have. I'll write you an angel check now. I write you a 5K USD ticket, and I'm on your ass every 2 months asking about my money. Like, it doesn't, like, the founder is going through enough. Call the founder and ask them how they're doing, or how you can help. It's not about the money. The minute you decide to go into that game. So I really respect that investor. And there's a couple more actually who worked with me. Some even have invested in my next venture. They're like, man, you're a great founder. You're just going after a terrible business. I respect such people, because they are aware about the game they're playing. Then there are other guys who are chasing the high just chasing the money. Like, if you don't have that awareness that most of the startups you're going to invest in will fail, then where are you in the venture capital business in the first place? So the worst response was a guy who just like drilled the failure in me, you know. He's like, you know, you guys, you sold me this great vision. What has changed right now? You're saying it's not working. Like, that's what business validation is. Like, you have a hypothesis, you go and try, it works or it doesn't work. I didn't have a guarantee that it's going to work, and I never sold anyone a guarantee that it's going to work. So, but those are the kinds of guys, like, they're just toxic, and and it's not that I don't understand them and empathize with them, but just forgiving myself for that situation has helped me cope and start again. And I can collect money from other people because, like, now when we talk to an investor, like, we're on the same page. You know, even like how we communicate is
it's different from how you've done it before.
Yeah, it's very different. Even with team,
Okay.
much more transparent about the financial health of the business, what it will take to succeed, etc.
Okay. Does your personal life in any way take a financial hit during this period? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I went without a salary the whole of last year. And friends came through. I have, and that's the importance of having really good people around you.
Yeah.
I have friends who were like, you know, have this, like, sort out whatever you need to sort out, your family, your rent, whatever it is. As you think, like, I know you'll figure this out, you know.
Yeah.
So it's taken guys like that.
Yeah. So you're the whole
and
year.
there are people who appreciate that you're not stupid. It's not that, okay, this guy was stupid for not saving or not. They just understand you and take you the way you are.
Did you have any sort of response like that where guys like, I mean, where are your savings or where's your emergency, whatever? Or?
Okay, I haven't asked, like, the 3 Fs. I haven't.
Yeah.
I don't have such conversations with anybody who can
Who's
who's
not.
gonna ask me such a question.
Yeah.
Like, you're just not in my circle. If that's the kind of question you'd
You're
ask
going to
me.
ask. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay, so
find your tribe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So then dawn comes in the morning, I guess. the sun rises again.
Yes.
And so you
the
get
sun
your
will always rise. And the sun will always rise, and a lion will never eat grass.
Yes.
Yes.
So you get your new venture. You get your new, and you, like you said, you started setting solutions the same way. How do you, what kind of work did you need to do on yourself? I know you've talked about therapy, forgiving yourself. Is there anything else you needed to do to get yourself into a frame of mind where you can now take on this new venture? And do you feel like, is it that you feel like your life's purpose is in this space, and so this is what you're going to do? Like, liwe liwalo, come hell high water,
Yes.
this is where you're at.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know any other life.
Yeah.
I keep telling my friends that, like, I have no idea what else I could be doing if it wasn't for building tech products. So I feel like everything that happened, all the experiences culminated into what we're building now for many reasons. One is we're much better at building product, we're much better at building a team, much better at communicating, very important. So one of the things we had to do is have very many hard conversations with all sorts of people. So there's people you owe money, those investors who don't understand how you failed, how you lost their money. There's the team who believed in the vision and everything, and you have to let them go. So all those conversations just made me much more appreciative of the role I play in the ecosystem. Like, even other founders just asking, like, what happened? What the hell happened? You know? So I think all those experiences have made me a much stronger person and much better suited to build a venture that's going to achieve the impact. I thought my previous venture was it. but just from all those experiences, it's really humbled me.
Yeah.
In a good way. So I think greater things are coming.
Okay. My final question.
Yeah.
What are the things, financially speaking, what are the things that you're now doing right?
Yeah.
To ensure learning from Marketforce to
I've given
ensure
so much bad advice to you. Let me try to give good advice.
to ensure you don't end up where you had.
Yeah. So I think I haven't diversified well. Like if you look at my portfolio, it's 99.9%.
Angel investor.
Yeah, it's like 95% angel investor.
Yeah.
So I've done other things like bought property, all that, but it's not my thing. Like, in fact, I need to dispose those pieces of land that you buy in Isiolo and Kajiado. Like I still feel I should be putting that money behind founders. But to be honest, I feel like I need to start investing in a less risky asset class. So I'm just starting that journey. So for everyone who thinks like Tesh has got this figured out, no, I haven't. I'm trying to figure it out now. So yeah, and I'm learning.
Okay.
And just keep learning, keep reinventing yourself. So this new season, that's one thing I'm gonna do different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, this I want to ask because if I don't, I'm remiss if I don't ask. So financially speaking, you said for Marketforce, you said other than spending money you didn't have, were there any other financial mistakes that you can look back now and say this was a financial error that we made that didn't help us beyond spending money that you didn't have?
Interesting question. The generic answer would be scaling fast. But like I'm still very clear about like why we scaled the way we do.
Yeah,
we did.
Like the justification is still there.
Yeah, it's still there. So I'm trying to figure out if it's a mistake or not. And maybe communicating. Honestly, I think we underestimate how. Now this is speaking mostly to everybody. If you're an employer, like let people understand the financial health of the business. I feel like a lot of SME founders, they're not transparent about how much money is being made, how much money you're making. So I realized later, people think that you're making so much money, you're paying yourself so well, and all those things. And many times it's not true. Sometimes it could be true. So just communicate more, and even with your loved one, whether it's your spouse, your friends, talk more. People are keeping all this information to themselves. Maybe you're in debt, and a friend of yours could help you get out of debt. So seeking help, but generally, I wish I communicated more.
Yeah.
About the state of everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Last question.
What's like the sixth last
This is the sixth last question. Let me tell you, this happens all the time. Like all the time. It's not even. I should stop doing that. I should learn how to drink that now better. Anyway.
Yeah.
If the chapter, the venture you're building now, right? If it ends up, unfortunately, in the same way that Marketforce ended up, and not even putting it in the atmosphere, so to speak. I'm just saying, financially speaking and proverbially speaking, is it worth dying for? I mean, if this quote unquote kills your financial
from a financial
life, purely from a financial perspective, if this kills your financial life, is it because you said this is all I know, this is what I know how to do? Is it worth dying for financially?
Yeah, so the reason I said a lion will never eat grass is because I think if you build enough leverage, enough skill, be the best at what you do, then you're unlikely to die financially. You're likely to die of other reasons. You could die of stress, you could be hit by a car, you could, you could burn out and just not be able to to keep building and making money.
Right.
And that's why I think that should come first. Take care of yourself and build yourself. Invest in yourself. Actually, I didn't mention this. The biggest investment I've made is in myself. That's the reality. Because I know if this doesn't work out, like, I'll figure something out. I don't know how that would look like, but I'd figure something out because I have value to offer to the world. Unless I'm sick and I can't work,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for coming on to Financially Incorrect. I've had a really interesting discussion. I think learned a thing or two. I've gotten a much clearer picture of a number of things. I think a lot of times, you read the newspaper articles. For me, it seemed really quick because at some point, like, Marketforce was everywhere and doing great and all this. And the next minute, I was like, what's happening? So, I mean, I think just having some context in that regard is fantastic. I actually interacted with the Cloud9 business.
Interesting.
In 2019, I think, 2018, 2019. So, I didn't know that you were the one who was behind it. So
what did you do?
I interacted with it. I think because, if I'm not mistaken, I came to your offices were on Wayaki Way.
Yes.
Wayaki Way, like near
Deloitte.
Near that building. And life of me now, I can't remember exactly what I was coming to do. It was either for something to do with a client or because in the entertainment space in one way or another. Anyway, something. But I remember the name Cloud9. I remember the business. So I didn't know you were behind it. That's just
so cool to hear,
interesting to come across here. But thanks for coming on Financially Incorrect. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode and learned a thing or two, and gotten a bit of context as well. Definitely big lessons here. And we'll see you guys on the next episode of Financially Correct next Friday. And remember, if you're in Tanzania, if you're an entrepreneur, you want to talk about your money story, please hit us up, DM, email, or in the comments, and we'll reach out to you on the dates we're shooting in Tanzania. And looking forward to your stories.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.